I'm sitting in my small room, the light from the computer screen casting shadows on my tired face. As a 32-year-old freelance photographer, my life revolves around short trips and photos of Astoria's harbor with its crashing waves and enveloping fog. Today I captured a few good shots. The weathered old ships anchored under the sunset, the rippling sea whispering secrets. I scroll through them, tweaking the brightness a bit, trying to make them come alive. That's how I forget the daily worries, forget that my family life has never truly been peaceful. The phone rings suddenly, cutting through my thoughts. I glance at the clock. It's nearly midnight. Who calls at this hour? Unknown number, not friends or clients. My heart beats a little faster. I hesitate for a few seconds, my finger hovering over the screen. Maybe a wrong number, or a late-night sales call. But then, a strange intuition makes me pick up. Hello? My voice is a bit hoarse from breathing sea air all day. On the other end is a woman's voice, professional but urgent. Hello, is this Caleb Warren, family member of Mrs. Elaine Warren? Mrs. Elaine Warren, my mother. My heart clenches. Yes, this is him. What's wrong? I try to keep my voice steady, but my hand grips the phone tightly. This is from Columbia Memorial Hospital. Your mother was brought to the emergency room about an hour ago. She's in the ICU. You should come right away. Her tone is even, as if she's used to delivering bad news like this. But to me, it's like a punch to the chest. Emergency? My mother? She's only 59, still healthy, still running Warren's Attic, the antique shop on Commercial Street. She's been getting dizzy lately, but I thought it was just age. The call ends. I stand frozen for a few seconds, my mind spinning. I grab my old jacket hastily, not bothering to change clothes. Rain starts falling outside the window, droplets pattering against the glass. Astoria is always damp this time of year. But tonight the rain pours down as if the heavens themselves are worried with me. I rush to the garage, start up my beat-up old pickup truck. The engine roars to life and I speed off into the dark night. The streets are deserted, lit only by the hazy glow of street lamps. I press the accelerator harder, the truck hurtling through familiar streets. Astoria isn't big, but it's nearly 20 minutes from my place to the hospital. The rain grows heavier, visibility blurring. I suddenly think of my father and brother, wondering if they've heard about Mom's admission yet. And should I call them? Lost in my thoughts, the hospital looms into view. I park haphazardly and run into the main lobby. Rain soaks through my jacket, chilling me to the bone. A night shift staffer looks up from the desk, her face weary. I'm Caleb Warren, son of Elaine Warren. She's in the ICU, I say breathlessly, my words tumbling out. She checks the computer quickly. Yes, sir. ICU is on the 3rd floor. Take the elevator to the right, then turn left following the signs. I thank her hurriedly and dash into the elevator. My heart pounds like it's about to burst. The elevator ascends slowly. I check the clock. Past midnight now. The ICU is eerily quiet, filled only with the beeping of machines and the sharp scent of disinfectant. I walk down the hallway searching for Mom's room, and then I see them, Dad and Joel, standing on the small balcony connected to the hallway. Dad is in a black suit, his hair silver and neatly combed, his face as stern as ever. He's saying something to Joel in a low voice. Joel, tall with his hair slicked back and gleaming, nods vigorously. They don't look like they're worried about Mom. No tears, no pacing outside her room. Just standing there talking like they're discussing business. I start to approach them to talk, but then a gentle hand pulls me back. I spin around, nearly jumping. It's a young nurse, about 30, with brown hair tied neatly back. Caleb, don't go out there yet. Her voice is a tense whisper. I recognize her. Emma, the nurse who's cared for Mom during her routine cardiac checkups. Mom often talked about her, saying Emma was so kind. Emma? What's going on? How's my mom? I ask, lowering my voice to match hers. She glances around, then pulls me into a shadowed corner. Your mom's stable, but don't go out there yet. Just stay quiet, listen, and observe. Something's not right. Worry flickers in her eyes, sending a chill down my spine. Not right? What does she mean? I nod, my heart racing harder. Emma points toward the glass door leading to the balcony where Dad and Joel are standing. I creep closer, pressing myself against the wall, straining to hear. Dad's voice comes through clearly. "You have to sign these papers before she wakes up. We can't let it be any later." Joel replies, "Yes, Dad. I'll handle the rest. Just make sure no one knows." Papers? Signed before Mom wakes? My heart seems to stop. Is this some medical procedure? Or a contract? But why so secretive in the dead of night at a hospital? I try to listen more, but they lower their voices and only fragments come through. Insurance. Assets. My head spins. Maybe it's just concern for Mom, administrative stuff. But why are their voices so calm? No trace of grief. A sense of unease creeps into my heart like a venomous snake slithering in. Is something shady going on here? Emma suddenly pulls me back, whispering, "See what I mean?" I don't know the details, but I saw them arrive earlier and they asked about her condition in a strange way. Not like worried family. I nod, swallowing hard. Thanks, Emma. I'll figure it out. But in my mind, a storm is brewing. Mom, what do I do now? Then memories flooded back like an old film reel, faded yet heartbreakingly sharp. In recent months, everything had changed quietly, and I, the one always busy with my camera and trips, hadn't noticed sooner. I should have paid more attention, should have been by her side more. Was it too late now? About 4 months ago, on a crisp autumn afternoon in Astoria, I stopped by Warren's Attic, the antique shop on Commercial Street where my mother, Elaine Warren, 59 years old, had devoted nearly her entire life to building. She was a serene woman, passionate about art to the point where she could sit for hours gazing at an antique porcelain vase or a faded painting. The shop wasn't large, but it was cozy, with old wooden shelves crammed full of objects carrying the breath of the past. Grandfather clocks, crystal chandeliers, leather-bound books with yellowed pages. The scent of aged wood and faint dust always made me feel like I was coming home. That day I stepped inside, the doorbell jingling cheerfully. Mom was sitting behind the counter sorting through a stack of ledgers. "My boy, what brings you to visit your mom today?" She smiled, her warm brown eyes lighting up. I hugged her, inhaling the familiar lavender perfume. I was shooting nearby and stopped by on the way. "How are you?" I asked, settling into the wooden chair opposite her. She nodded, but I noticed her smile seemed a bit forced. "I'm fine. Just a little tired," she said, gently rubbing her temple. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Mom was 59, running the shop alone, stress was normal. But then, when she stood to grab a box from a high shelf, she staggered. "Mom!" I rushed over, helping her sit down. She laughed it off. "Just a dizzy spell, son." Old age. My heart tightened a little, but I believed her. I stayed to help tidy up, and as I left, I reminded her, "Rest up, Mom. Don't overdo it." In the days that followed, the symptoms recurred. I called her more often, and each time she mentioned sudden bouts of dizziness. "Today I nearly fell in the shop," she said over the phone once, her tone light as if discussing the weather. I worried, urging her to see a doctor, but she brushed it off. "I can take care of myself, son. Don't worry." I figured it was just signs of aging. Low blood pressure, lack of sleep, or business stress. Astoria was a small town, but her shop drew tourists, keeping her busy. I never imagined it was the start of something abnormal. A storm, quietly brewing. Then my father and brother started paying more attention. My father, Richard Warren, 64, was always occupied with his auction house for antiques downtown. He was a prominent figure in Astoria, tall, with a deep, resonant voice, but as cold as the items he sold. He rarely visited Mom since their separation 10 years ago. They maintained a polite relationship for our sake, but the closeness was gone. As for Joel, my brother, 29, he worked in PR for Dad's auction house. He took after Dad. Shrewd, ambitious, always knowing how to make everything look perfect on the surface. In the past few months, Joel had started dropping by Mom's shop almost daily. The first time I learned about it was during an evening visit. I walked in and saw Joel at the counter holding a pill bottle. "Hey, Caleb," he greeted with a wide grin. "I'm checking Mom's meds." Dad said to switch to a better one. Mom sat there looking tired but pleased. "Joel's so thoughtful, son. He brought these from Portland," she said. I was surprised. "What meds? What's wrong with you, Mom?" I asked, sitting down. Joel explained, "Heart supplements. Dad knows a top cardiologist in Portland. He prescribed these new ones. Mom gets dizzy a lot, so she needs something better." His voice was confident, like he was pitching an auction item. Dad called me later. "Don't worry, son. I'll take care of her. These are expensive but effective," he said over the phone, his tone even like reading a business report. At first, I was grateful. It had been ages since the family felt this close. I visited more often, seeing Joel check Mom's medicine cabinet, even reminding her to take them on schedule. "Take it, Mom, right at 8 p.m., he'd say, handing her a pill. Mom would smile. "Thank you, dear. Having you boys look after me like this makes me so happy." But gradually I realized her health wasn't improving. She still got dizzy, grew more fatigued, and one time even fainted in the shop. I started worrying for real. "Mom, you have to see a doctor. The new meds aren't working," I told her, my voice trembling. But when I brought it up with Dad and Joel, they dismissed it outright. "Don't meddle in grown-up matters," Dad said over the phone irritably. "I've got it handled. The Portland doctor says it's normal." Joel just laughed it off when we met. "You're overthinking it, bro." Mom's in good hands. I check on her daily. We argued once at the shop. "Why do you have to check the medicine cabinet? Mom can manage her own pills," I asked. Joel shrugged. "Dad's orders. Just to be sure." His eyes darted away, which struck me as odd, but I didn't press. I figured they were trying, and I, the free-spirited one, shouldn't interfere. But Mom's health kept declining. She grew thinner, her eyes shadowed with dark circles, her movements sluggish. The dizzy spells became frequent, and she started forgetting small things, like where she put her keys or the name of an antique piece. "I'm getting old, son," she'd say, trying to reassure me. Each visit she'd hug me tighter, as if sensing something was wrong. "You're my joy," she'd whisper. My heart ached. I took more photos of her. The shots of her sitting in the shop, afternoon sunlight streaming through the window, highlighting her gentle smile. I thought it was a way to preserve her, but deep down I feared losing her. Memories faded, pulling me back to the present in the hospital corridor. The hospital lights were stark white, but my heart felt shrouded in darkness. I wandered down the hallway, my feet heavy as if weighted with lead. The rubber-soled shoes of the nurses squeaked on the polished floor, and the pungent smell of disinfectant made my head throb. A few minutes later, I heard the glass door from the balcony slide open. I whipped around, my heart pounding. It was Dad and Joel stepping inside. They spotted me standing there, just a few steps away. In that instant, I caught the flash of surprise in their eyes. Dad's eyebrow arched, Joel halted abruptly. But then, as quick as lightning, they regained their composure. Dad smiled, a fake smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Caleb, there you are. I thought you hadn't arrived yet." His voice was even like discussing the weather. I stepped forward, trying to keep my voice steady, but my heart was racing wildly. "Dad, Joel, how's Mom? Why was she admitted?" I asked directly, staring into their eyes. The air suddenly grew heavy, as if an invisible wall had risen between us. Dad glanced quickly at Joel, then replied, "Oh, just exhaustion from overwork, son. Your mom works at the shop all day without rest." That's what the doctor said. His tone was light, as if recounting something unrelated to him. Joel chimed in, his voice smooth like he was doing PR for the auction house. "Yeah, just a minor heart episode, bro. Nothing serious. Mom's been getting dizzy lately, probably just age." I stood frozen. Exhaustion from overwork? Minor heart episode? Their words contradicted each other blatantly. Dad said exhaustion, Joel said heart issue. and their tones were too casual, as if discussing a broken antique rather than my mother lying in the ICU hooked up to machines. No tears, no worry, just evasive answers. My heart clenched, a burning anger surging up. What were they hiding? Why not just say it straight? I forced myself to ask more, my voice trembling slightly. So, what's her current condition? What did the doctor say? Dad glanced at his watch, a familiar gesture when he wanted to end a conversation. She's recovering well, son. The doctor says she'll be fine in a few days. Now Joel and I have to head back to the auction house. Important meeting. You stay and watch over her, okay? He patted my shoulder lightly, then turned and walked away, Joel following without another word. They left quickly, their footsteps echoing down the hallway, leaving me there in a storm of emotions. Recovering well? That's it? No questions about Mom? No staying until she wakes? Everything felt wrong. The intuition that something was off had now become a real fear, like a sharp knife stabbing into my chest. I turned back to Mom's room, watching her lie motionless through the glass door. Her face was pale, her lips slightly pursed as if in pain. The heart monitor beeped steadily, but each beep was a reminder. She was fighting. I couldn't just sit still. I needed to find and talk to her attending physician. Emma saw me and pointed the way to the doctor's office. I nodded my thanks and jogged down the hallway, my heart pounding like a drum. The on-call room door was open. Dr. Harlan, a middle-aged man with thick glasses, was jotting down notes. "Excuse me, I'm Caleb Warren, son of Elaine Warren. I need details on my mother's condition," I said hurriedly, breathless. The doctor looked up, his face serious. "Please have a seat. I'll explain." He gestured to the chair opposite him. I sat down, gripping the armrests tightly. "Your mother was admitted with acute arrhythmia, accompanied by a severe drug reaction." He spoke slowly, his professional tone laced with concern. My heart seemed to stop. Acute arrhythmia? Drug reaction? What exactly does that mean, doctor? "What's wrong with her?" I asked, my voice hoarse. He flipped through the file, continuing. "When she arrived, she had fresh bruises on her arm and back. Looked like from a hard impact or fall just before the heart episode. And the blood test results." He paused, looking at me. "There was an unusual cardiac stimulant in her blood. It's not in the prescription medications she takes daily at home. This compound can cause arrhythmia if dosed incorrectly or combined wrongly." I went numb, like I'd been punched in the face. An unusual compound, not in her prescriptions? I immediately thought of the pill bottles Joel had brought with new labels and strange colors. Drug reaction? Was it from those? And the bruises from a fall in the shop? Or did someone push her? Dad and Joel's words suddenly rang hollow. Exhaustion from overwork? Minor heart episode? They were lies. Their calm voices were because they knew exactly what had happened. I sat there, my mind reeling. Dr. Harlan looked at me with worry. "Are you okay? We're monitoring her closely, but you should report anything unusual from her home routine." I nodded mechanically and stood to leave. The hallway now felt endlessly long, the white walls glaring. I understood now, behind Mom's illness was something sinister. And my own family, my father and brother, were trying to cover it up. Why? For money? For assets? Or worse? Rage exploded in me, mingled with fear. I returned to Mom's room, sat by her bed, and took her hand. "Mom, I won't let them hurt you anymore," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. I returned to Mom's room, sitting by her bed for a little longer, trying to sort through my thoughts. Her face was still pale, her breathing steady thanks to the machines, but each breath was a reminder. Time waits for no one. After hearing the results from Dr. Harlan, acute arrhythmia, drug reaction, bruises, and unknown cardiac stimulant in her blood, I no longer believed a word from Dad or Joel. Their evasive remarks, their feigned calm, it all now seemed like a thin mask. What were they hiding? I couldn't just sit and wait anymore. I had to investigate myself. If I didn't, Mom could be in real danger. I kissed her forehead lightly and whispered, "I'll be back soon, Mom." Then I left the hospital, driving to her house in the fading afternoon light. Mom's house was behind Warren's attic, a quaint little wooden home on Commercial Street with a backyard overlooking the river. I parked in front, my heart pounding. The spare key was still in its usual spot under the flower pot. I stepped inside, and the familiar air rushed over me. The scent of old books, lavender tea, and a touch of timeless dust. But today, everything felt different. The house was silent, no sound of Mom's laughter or the shop's cheerful bell. I closed the door, turned on the light, and headed straight to the kitchen. The medicine cabinet was there on the high shelf where she kept her vitamin bottles and heart meds. I opened it, my hand trembling slightly. Inside was a jumble, old and new bottles mixed together, a few tipped over. I took each one out, examining them carefully. First was the heart supplement prescribed by the local doctor 6 months ago. Its label faded with the name Atenolol, the one she used to manage her blood pressure. But next to it were several new bottles with overlapping labels and blurry handwritten notes. I compared them. One was marked New Meds from Portland, but inside were strange green pills unlike the old ones. I remembered clearly, Dr. Harlan had specified prescriptions, and the unknown compound in Mom's blood didn't match. There were signs the labels had been swapped. The adhesive was fresh, as if someone had hastily reapplied them. Another bottle, purchased 2 weeks ago according to the attached receipt, was labeled digoxin, a potent cardiac stimulant, not in her prescribed regimen. My heart raced harder. Joel, the one who'd brought these bottles. Better meds, he'd said. Now what? This was the first piece of evidence? I photographed everything with my phone, my hands shaking. If these were poison, were they slowly poisoning her? I slumped down at the kitchen table, my mind reeling. Why? For money or assets? Mom had her own shop, but she wasn't wealthy enough to kill for. I stood up and went into her study, a small nook with an antique wooden desk piled high with ledgers and bills. I pulled open the drawers, rummaging through. Beneath the messy stack of papers was an old file folder, its leather cover yellowed with age. I opened it and my heart seemed to stop. It was a life insurance policy in Mom's name, Elaine Warren, issued 3 years ago from a company in Portland. Beneficiary, Richard Warren, my father. Amount, $5 million. I read it over and over, my eyes blurring from the shock. $5 million. Mom had never mentioned it to me. She'd only said, "I have some basic insurance, son." But this was a fortune, enough to bail out Dad's auction house if he was in trouble. He'd complained about debts, about the slumping antique market. Now it was clear, if Mom died of a natural heart event, the money would go straight to him. I gripped the folder tightly, rage surging through me. Had they planned this 3 years ago? And I knew nothing. I photographed the entire contract. Putting it all together, the picture emerged in horrifying clarity. They swapped her meds, mixing in the unknown compound to gradually weaken her heart. Then staged a natural incident, a fall, heart attack, hospitalization. If Mom died, the insurance payout went to Dad. His auction house would be saved, and Joel would probably get a hefty cut too. As for me, they knew I didn't care about money, so they wrote me out. A perfect plan if I hadn't gotten in the way. Though there was no direct proof yet, no video, no witnesses, my gut told me I couldn't delay. I had to act now. I wiped away my tears and stood up. First things first, protect Mom. I drove back to my apartment, grabbing the hidden camera, a tiny one I used for documentary filming. It connected to an app on my phone, recording 24/7. I returned to the hospital at dusk, sneaking into Mom's room when the nurses weren't looking. Emma was on duty, but I kept it from her. I didn't want to drag her into this. I mounted the camera behind a vase on the table, angled toward the bed and door. I checked the app. Clear video, good audio. Now I could monitor remotely. My heart raced like I was committing a crime. But this was for Mom. When I wasn't at the hospital, I told Emma, "Please keep an eye on her for me. If anyone strange comes into the room, let me know right away." She nodded, worry in her eyes. From then on, I began my silent war, protecting Mom while finding a way to expose the plot hatched by my own father and brother. The following days dragged on in excruciating tension. I split my time between the hospital and my small apartment, where I lived alone amid a clutter of cameras and harbor photos. During the day, I sat by Mom's side, holding her hand, recounting childhood memories. Like the time we strolled along the Columbia River where she taught me to identify old ships by the shape of their sails. "Remember, Mom? I used to be scared of the big waves, but you said they were just the sea's heartbeat." I whispered, hoping my voice would seep into her deep sleep. She didn't respond, only the steady beep of the heart monitor answering, a reminder that she was still here, still fighting. Emma stopped by frequently, bringing water or updates. "She's more stable than yesterday, Caleb." Her heart beat steadier, she said, forcing a comforting smile. I nodded, but anxiety churned inside me. Whenever Dad or Joel called to check in, I pretended everything was normal. "Mom's okay, recovering." Their voices sounded fake, and I gripped the phone tightly, suppressing my rage. Nights were when I went into action. I sat at my computer, checking the app for the hidden camera in her room. Black and white footage, slightly blurry under the neon lights, but clear enough to catch every movement. I watched nurses pass by, doctors check in. Nothing unusual, at least not in the first few days. One late night, about 3 days after installing the camera, I was in my apartment editing photos when my phone lit up beside me, accompanied by a soft buzz. A notification from the monitoring app. Motion detected in the room. My heart clenched. As was my routine every evening, I opened the app, assuming it was just a night shift nurse. But no, the screen displayed an image that jolted me like an electric shock. On the screen, a figure in hospital attire, a white coat, green pants, was stepping into Mom's room. The silhouette was stealthy, head slightly bowed, no name tag or dangling ID badge like regular staff. He paused by the door, glancing around as if checking for witnesses, then approached the bed. My heart pounded, blood rushing to my head. It wasn't Emma, not Dr. Harlan, not anyone I'd seen on shift. His face was obscured under a cap, but his actions were unmistakable. He leaned close to the bed, his hand reaching for the IV line attached to Mom's arm. His fingers furtively adjusted the valve as if injecting something or altering the flow. "No," I shouted into the empty room, nearly dropping the phone. What was this? An intruder? Who hired him? Dad? Joel? The thought sliced through my heart like a knife. Fear and tension exploded in me like a bomb. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears, breaths coming short and shallow, hands trembling uncontrollably. I quickly dialed Emma, her number already saved. The phone rang once, then her sleepy voice. "Hello? Caleb? Emma, check on Mom's room right now. There's a stranger in there messing with the IV." I yelled into the phone, my voice cracking with panic. "Oh God, I'm on my way," she replied, then hung up. But I couldn't wait. No time for a response. I bolted from the chair, grabbed my jacket hastily, snatched the car keys. The apartment door slammed behind me as I stumbled down to the garage, nearly tripping. The engine roared to life, and I sped out onto Astoria's midnight streets, rain pattering on the windshield. The streets were deserted, lit only by hazy street lamps, the rain growing heavier by the second. I floored the accelerator, the car hurtling through familiar roads, water spraying from the tires. My mind raced. Mom, please be okay. What if he injected poison? The unknown compound last time. Was this round two? I pictured her face, her gentle smile, and tears streamed down my cheeks. "You have to live, Mom," I muttered, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Time stretched endlessly. 15 minutes of driving felt like hours. I called Emma back. "What's happening?" "I'm running there now. They've alerted the whole hospital. she panted. I hung up, praying. Rain lashed the windshield, wipers squeaking like my erratic heartbeat. Finally, the hospital came into view, its white building stark under flickering neon lights. I parked haphazardly and sprinted into the lobby, soaked to the bone. My heart felt like it would burst as I dashed into the elevator. The ICU was in chaos, medical staff rushing into Mom's room, shouts for the doctor echoing. I shoved through the door into the hallway. Doctors were performing emergency resuscitation. The monitor showed arrhythmia, the heart rhythm dancing chaotically on the screen, emergency alarms blaring relentlessly. "Weak pulse. Prepare defibrillator," a doctor yelled. I stood frozen outside the glass door, watching Mom lie there, her body twitching slightly, face ashen. "Mom," I whispered, pounding my fist against the glass. Emma stood in the hallway, her face drained of color, hand clutching her chest. "Caleb. She just went into sudden cardiac arrest." I got there in time, saw the stranger running out. I yelled, and then she started seizing. Her voice trembled, eyes red-rimmed. I put my arm around her shoulder. "Thank you. You saved her." But my heart ached like it was being torn apart. The doctors worked frantically, administering meds, shocking her, artificial respiration. Time crawled like molasses, each second a torment. I paced the hallway, praying silently. Memories flooded back. Mom hugging me as a child, singing lullabies by the river. "Don't leave me, Mom," I muttered. Luckily, thanks to the early detection and prompt intervention after hours of tension, her heart stabilized again. Dr. Harlan emerged, wiping sweat from his brow. "She's out of immediate danger." We flushed the unknown substance from the IV. Someone had tampered with it. "She'll recover gradually." I exhaled in relief, my legs buckling as I slumped into a chair. It felt like I'd just pulled her back from the fragile edge between life and death. She was still weak but alive. I glanced through the glass, seeing the steady heartbeat return. Tears rolled down my face, mixed with fury. Who did this? I knew. Dad and Joel. This was the final step in their plan. After asking Emma to watch over Mom, "Stay with her, please, I have to handle this," I said, and she nodded. I headed straight to the hospital's security office in the basement. The room was dimly lit, crammed with surveillance screens. The night guard, a portly older man, looked surprised to see me. "I'm Elaine Warren's son. I need to review the ICU hallway footage from the time of the incident, around 1 a.m. I said urgently, my voice shaking with anger. He checked, then rewound the tape. On the screen it was clear. A figure in a hooded coat, face obscured by a mask and cap, entering the ICU through a side door, for staff only. He moved stealthily, avoiding main cameras, but one angle caught him. He entered Mom's room, stayed a few minutes, then left just moments before her crisis hit. The face was too dark and covered to identify, but the external parking lot security had captured the license plate of the car he used to leave. A black sedan, Oregon plates, 7HJ-492. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my skin until it bled. For the first time, I had a real trace of the one behind the plot to harm my mother. "Print the photo and plate for me," I demanded of the guard. He complied. Leaving the security room, the rain still fell, but I didn't feel cold. Rage boiled inside me. I returned to Mom's bedside. Thank God she was still stable. I sat by her, telling her a light-hearted story. But my heart was filled with resolve. Whoever hurt her would pay, and I would be the one to expose them. That night, I lay awake until dawn, my mind mapping out a plan. I couldn't do this alone anymore. I needed a professional. The next morning, as the sun peeked through Astoria's thick gray clouds, I drove to the office of Mark Daniels, an acquaintance lawyer downtown. Mark was an old friend from college, a tall guy with a deep, warm voice, specializing in local civil and criminal cases. His office was small but tidy, lined with bookshelves full of files and the faint aroma of coffee. I knocked on the door, my heart racing. "Caleb? Long time no see. Come in," Mark greeted, his face registering surprise at my exhausted appearance. I sank into the worn leather chair and began to tell him everything, laying it all out, holding nothing back. Mark listened intently, scribbling notes furiously, his expression shifting from surprise to fury. "My God, Caleb, this is a murder plot. Why didn't you go to the police sooner?" I shook my head. I was afraid I didn't have enough evidence. But now I do. I handed him everything. Photos of the medicine cabinet, the swapped label bottles, a copy of the insurance contract, footage from the hidden camera capturing the stranger, and the stills of the license plate extracted from the hospital security room. "This plate, 7HJ-492, it can be traced to the owner." Mark reviewed it all, his eyes narrowing. "All right, we'll make this official. I'll draft the complaint right away." Mark moved swiftly. He sat at his computer, drafting a formal complaint to the Astoria Police Department. The filing requested a preliminary investigation into intentional endangerment, possibly poisoning through medication, and potential life insurance fraud. "We'll emphasize the conspiracy element backed by this initial evidence," Mark explained, his fingers clacking away on the keyboard. I sat there watching him work, my heart filled with a mix of hope and fear. This was the turning point from my solitary, silent battle to an official probe. Mark printed the document, I signed it, and he sent it via urgent email to the station. "They'll jump on it quickly. Astoria's small, but the cops here take cases like this seriously." Just a few hours later, the police arrived. 2 officers, a middle-aged man named Thompson, burly with a thick mustache, and a young female officer named Reyes with sharp eyes, stopped by the hospital first, then came to Mom's house. I led them inside, my heart pounding. "This is the medicine cabinet," I pointed out, my voice slightly unsteady. They seized samples of the medications, the old and new bottles all jumbled together, for forensic analysis. "We'll cross-reference the purchase receipts and check the supply source from Portland," Thompson said, jotting notes. Reyes photographed the dried bloodstains in the shop and the scattered pills. "Looks like a fall scene," she observed. I nodded, but not a natural one. They took statements from me and from Emma. She recounted the stranger from the night before, her voice trembling. "I saw him bolt out the side exit." The police reviewed the hidden camera footage and the license plate images. "We'll run this plate," Thompson promised. I exhaled in relief, but a heavy weight lingered in my chest. This was my family, my father and brother, now suspects. 3 days later, Thompson called me to the station. The Astoria police office was modest, smelling of coffee and old paperwork. "Preliminary results here," he said, handing me a sheet. The medications contained traces of an unusual cardiac stimulant, matching the compound found in Mom's blood upon admission. "Not in her prescribed regimen. It could have been tampered with," Reyes added. But they couldn't yet pinpoint who had altered or mixed it. Fingerprints were smudged, and the pharmacy receipts from Portland didn't specify the buyer. Then the big break. The police had caught the intruder. His name was Victor Hale, a drifter on the outskirts of Astoria, nabbed while hiding out in a cheap motel. We traced the plate. The car was rented under a fake name, but parking lot cameras led us to him, Thompson recounted. Hale confessed he'd been hired by a middle-aged man for $5,000 to harm my mother. All the evidence pointed toward Dad and Joel, but they were still missing that final piece to make an arrest. A direct confession? Financial proof? I left the station, my mind in turmoil. Rain was falling outside again, Astoria as damp as ever. I drove back to the hospital, my thoughts fixed on Mom lying in the ICU. Her heartbeat steady only thanks to the machines, but still unconscious. She needed time to recover, and I needed time to uncover the truth. But the police were too slow. The expanded investigation could drag on for months, even years. In that time, what might Dad and Joel do? Keep covering it up? Or worse, silence me? The thought made my heart clench like someone was strangling it. No, I couldn't wait. I had to act now before they had a chance to strike back. Back at the hospital, I called Mark Daniels. "Mark, let's meet. I'm not waiting for the police anymore." My voice was resolute, though anxiety churned inside me. Mark agreed, and that afternoon we met at a small coffee shop near the Astoria courthouse, a quiet spot filled with the aroma of toasted bread and strong black coffee. Mark sat across from me, his face serious under the dim yellow lights. "Are you sure, Caleb? Filing a civil suit means suing your own father and brother for insurance fraud and intentional harm. It'll be public. The media will buzz." I nodded, gripping my hot coffee cup so tightly it burned my palms. "I'm sure. The cops are too slow. Mom needs to be safe. If we sue, they'll be too busy defending themselves to touch her again." We hashed it out thoroughly. Mark listed the risks. The circumstantial evidence might be weak in civil court, but enough to get the ball rolling. "We'll seek damages, and the court could issue a temporary protective order for your mom." After 2 hours of discussion, I signed the papers. Mark filed the suit in Astoria Superior Court the next day. The case quickly drew public attention. Local papers ran headlines. "Son sues father and brother over suspected poisoning of mother." Astoria being small, whispers spread everywhere. I read the online comments, my heart aching. The Warren family is shattered. But I had no regrets. This was how I'd protect Mom. Just a few days after the filing, Dad and Joel demanded a meeting. Dad called, his voice icy. "Meet at the auction house this afternoon. We need to talk." I agreed, but wariness filled me. The Warren Group auction house was downtown, a gleaming glass building showcasing antiques behind display cases. I stepped inside, the scent of aged wood and polished wax hitting me. Dad sat behind his massive desk, Joel standing beside him, face flushed with anger. "Sit down, son," Dad said, his voice low but sharp as a blade. I sat, staring directly into their eyes. The air was thick, like the calm before a storm. Dad started, his tone laced with accusation. "Have you lost your mind, Caleb? Suing your own father and brother over what? A few pill bottles and rumors?" He slammed his fist on the desk, eyes blazing. Joel jumped in, his voice mocking. "Bro, you're a traitor. Suing your own flesh and blood over delusions. Think you're a hero? Or just want a cut of the insurance money?" The argument escalated fiercely. Dad hurled insults. "You're just a wandering photographer who knows nothing about family. This will destroy the Warren name." Joel sneered. "Drop the suit, man. You'll lose big. No evidence. We're a respected family. The court will laugh you out." My heart twisted like a knife had been plunged into it. They, my own blood, now looked at me like an enemy. I flashed back to childhood, Dad teaching me about antiques, Joel playing with me. Now it was all shattered. But I stood firm. I'm not dropping it. I'm fighting for justice, for Mom, and to keep you busy in court so you can't touch her again. I stood and walked out, rage and pain boiling inside me. That meeting was like a deep gash, but it only hardened my resolve. The trial began 2 weeks later in the Astoria courthouse, an old building with gleaming wooden benches and a solemn atmosphere. Public buzz was intense. Reporters crowded the entrance, cameras flashing. I sat at the plaintiff's table, Mark beside me, my heart pounding like it would burst. The judge, a stern, middle-aged woman, banged her gavel to open the proceedings. In the early days, my lawyer, Mark, laid out the chain of evidence logically and sharply. He started with Mom's health decline. Elaine Warren, 59, began weakening 4 months ago with symptoms of dizziness, fatigue, fainting, all consistent with a reaction to an unknown drug. Mark displayed slides of the medicine cabinet photos, the swapped label bottles. These weren't in her prescription. They contained a cardiac stimulant that induced arrhythmia. Then the insurance policy. $5 million, beneficiary Richard Warren, a clear motive. The hidden camera footage played on the large screen, the stranger sneaking in, then Mom's seizure. The courtroom fell silent. I heard murmurs. Mark called witnesses. Dr. Harlan testified about the blood tests, Emma about the break-in night. "I saw him run out," she said, trembling. Our side was strong, but anxiety gnawed at me. Would it be enough? The defense countered aggressively. Their lawyer, a tall, booming-voiced man from Portland, called Richard to the stand. My father appeared composed in a crisp black suit, silver hair gleaming under the courtroom lights. He gave me a cold glance, then testified, "It's all a misunderstanding." I switched the meds on advice from a Portland doctor friend, for her benefit. Elaine was often tired, I was just concerned. His voice was steady, like recounting a business deal. On the insurance, the policy was just a precaution taken 3 years ago when we were still close. No plot. The gallery nodded. Dad was a prominent figure, owner of the esteemed auction house. Joel followed, playing the dutiful son. He sat ramrod straight, eyes artificially red-rimmed. I'm heartbroken being accused by my own brother. I only brought the meds to help Mom on Dad's say-so. Why would he think I'd hurt her? His voice quavered, tears streaming down. Perfect acting. The media swiftly tilted toward them. Papers ran, respected family slandered by rebellious son. Reporters interviewed outside, Richard Warren, victim of family misunderstanding. I read it all, my heart breaking. Public opinion turned against me. Old friends avoided my gaze. As the first week wore on, our side fell into a defensive posture. The opposing counsel attacked the evidence. The video's blurry, no clear face. Unknown compound, could be from elsewhere. Insurance, thousands have it. Mark rebutted, but the judge seemed hesitant. I was exhausted. Sleepless nights, no appetite, sitting in court with a spinning mind. Each evening at the hospital, seeing Mom still in a coma, I wondered, am I going to lose? Lose to the man who fathered me? Fear grew like a shadow enveloping me. Dad and Joel, they knew how to play this game, with money and connections. Richard maintained his image as the ideal father in public. He spoke outside the courthouse, voice tinged with sorrow. I love my ex-wife. I only want her well. My son has misunderstood. Joel would flash a half smirk leaving sessions, looking at me like the victor. It made me tremble with rage. Mark tried to reassure me. Don't lose faith. Sometimes justice just needs one small piece to fall into place. The trial dragged into its 9th day, everything seeming to head toward a dead end, until one day a message from the hospital stunned us both. Mom was showing signs of waking. That day, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a soft vibration, but to me it sounded like thunder. I glanced at the screen, my hands trembling. A message from Emma. Caleb, your mom is showing signs of waking. She's opened her eyes. I read it over and over, my heart pounding like a war drum. Stunned, I turned to Mark. Mom is showing signs of waking. Mark stared at me, eyes wide. What? Really? We both froze for a few seconds, like a ray of hope piercing through the thick darkness. Was this the missing piece? Would Mom testify? But I couldn't wait. I whispered to Mark. I have to go right now. He nodded. Go. I'll handle the court. I raced straight from the courthouse to the hospital upon hearing the news that Mom was showing signs of waking. After so many days in a coma, so many nights sitting by her bed, so many silent prayers, God had finally heard my desperate pleas. On the drive to the hospital, my mind spun wildly. The car hurtled through Astoria's familiar streets, rain pattering on the windshield, wipers squeaking like my erratic heartbeat. Mom showing signs of waking. After so many days in a coma, after so many nights I'd sat by her bed, holding her cold hand, whispering, Wake up, Mom. I need you. She'd lain there, still as a statue, machines sustaining her fragile life. Now what? Hope surged, but mingled with fear. If it was just a fleeting moment? If she didn't remember? Memories flooded back. Mom young and vibrant in Warren's attic, beaming as she arranged antiques. Son, life is like your photos, you have to capture the moments. She'd taught me to love art, to cherish objects that carried old stories. Now, if she woke, could she tell the truth to save the case? I pressed the accelerator harder, the car slicing through the fog, my heart on the verge of bursting. The hospital came into view, its white building stark under the fading afternoon sun. I parked haphazardly and sprinted into the lobby, drenched in sweat. Emma was waiting at the nurse's station, her face lit up but anxious. "Caleb." She opened her eyes half an hour ago. "Dr. Harlan is examining her." I hugged her tightly. "Thank you." We rushed into the elevator. The ICU hallway was eerily quiet, thick with the scent of disinfectant. Dr. Harlan stood outside the room, jotting notes. "Caleb, good news. Elaine is showing signs of waking, opening her eyes, calling your name. But she's very weak. We need to monitor closely." I nodded and stepped into the room, my heart hammering. She lay there, eyes half open, her face pale but alive. "Mom," I whispered, sitting by the bed, taking her hand. She squeezed it faintly, her voice weak. "Caleb, my son." Tears streamed down my face. Dr. Harlan announced, "She's awake and oriented, but her heart is still weak. We're ramping up security, only you and Nurse Emma in the room." The hospital acted swiftly. Guards posted outside, additional cameras installed. I understood precautions against Dad and Joel. Then she began to speak, her voice slow but steady, as if unleashing long-suppressed secrets. "Son, these past months, Richard and Joel kept bringing new meds to the shop. They said it was better stuff prescribed by a Portland doctor." She whispered, her eyes distant as she sifted through memories. I froze, my heart clenching like it was being squeezed. This was the truth from her own lips, confirming all my suspicions. "Joel came by daily, checking the medicine cabinet, reminding me to take them on time. Your father called saying, 'I know a famous doctor, I'll take care of her.' I believed them because they were family." She paused, breathing heavily, and Emma adjusted her pillow for comfort. I stroked her hand. "Keep going, Mom. If you're tired, rest. But I need to know everything." She shook her head faintly. "I have to tell you, son. I noticed something off. The pill color changed, not like the ones from the local doctor. After taking them, I got terrible dizziness, nausea, exhaustion, like all my strength was drained." I asked Joel and he brushed it off. "Just normal side effects, Mom. Don't worry. It's good medicine." Her voice quivered. I gripped her hand tighter, rage boiling in my chest. It all fit. The swapped label bottles I'd found in the cabinet, the unknown compound in her blood upon admission, the dizzy spells she'd mentioned before. They were poisoning her slowly, and she'd suspected but couldn't bear to think ill of her ex-husband and son. She took a deep breath and continued. "I remember clearly the day before I passed out. That day, Joel came to the shop alone, carrying a thick stack of papers. He sat down, face serious. 'Mom, Dad needs you to sign some insurance paperwork, just precautions. Updating the old contract.' I read through. It was related to the life insurance policy from 3 years ago, but I refused. 'I'm not signing, Joel. Leave it be. I don't want to be involved anymore.' Joel got angry, his face flushed, yelling, 'You have to sign. Dad needs the money for the auction house. This is the only way.' Then he shoved me hard. I fell against the wooden cabinet corner, my back slamming, head spinning, and then everything went black." She stopped, tears rolling down her wrinkled cheeks, her voice breaking. I went numb, like I'd been punched in the chest. It all matched the investigation perfectly. The meds they'd brought with swapped labels, the bruises on her back and arm that Dr. Harlan had discovered, the insurance policy from 3 years ago I'd found in the drawer. Joel had shoved her to force the signature, and she'd passed out from the drugs and the trauma. My heart ached, rage mingling with sorrow. "Mom, why didn't you tell me sooner? I could have stopped them," I whispered, my voice cracking, tears falling onto her hand. She wiped my tears. "I couldn't believe it, son. Couldn't believe my son and ex-husband would do this. I thought it was a misunderstanding. But now, I remember everything and I'll tell it all." I sat there, my mind reeling with the final pieces falling into place. As her strength allowed, she shared more details, the times Joel swapped old bottles for new. He said the old ones expired, but I saw they were still full. I took them and the dizziness hit right away. She spoke of Dad. Richard called weekly asking if I'd taken the meds. He said, "Take them, I've got it covered." I believed him, remembering how he used to care back then. Each word cut like a knife, but it was ironclad evidence. Memories surged. The last time I'd visited the shop before her admission, she'd been exhausted but brushed it off with a smile. "I'm fine, son, just old age." Now I understood she'd hidden it to protect the family, not wanting me to worry. "Mom, I'm suing them in court." "Your words will change everything." "I'll record it," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. She nodded. "I'm ready to testify." "I'm not afraid anymore, son. I want justice." I immediately called my lawyer, Mark. Dialing from the hospital room, my voice urgent. "Mark!" "Mom's awake. She's told me everything. The meds from Richard and Joel, the side effects, the shove from Joel, the insurance papers. It all matches." Mark whooped on the other end. "My God, Caleb, this is our game changer. I'm coming right now with the recorder and documents." Mark arrived at the hospital within the hour, dressed in a sharp suit, his face alight with excitement. Dr. Harlan and Emma witnessed as Elaine gave her formal statement. She recounted the details, her voice weak but clear. Mark recorded and took notes. "I, Elaine Warren, affirm that what I've stated is true." She signed shakily on the paper, notarized legally by the doctor and on-duty nurse. Mark clapped my shoulder. "This is the final piece, Caleb. We'll win." The very next day, Mark submitted Mom's affidavit to the court, requesting a recess to add the live witness. The judge agreed to a 1-week postponement. The courtroom buzzed as the news was read aloud. "Elaine Warren, the victim, has awakened and provided new testimony." The news spread like wildfire, shocking all of Astoria and rippling across Oregon. Local papers blared headlines. "Elaine Warren awakens, accuses ex-husband and son of poisoning." Reporters swarmed outside the hospital, cameras flashing, but security held them back. TV interviews buzzed. "The victim in the high-profile family lawsuit has woken and is ready to testify." A dramatic twist. Public opinion flipped, from pitying Dad and Joel to outrage. "They're monsters." Online comments erupted. "Elaine Warren, a strong woman." I sat by Mom, reading the news to her, my heart filled with hope. She smiled. "Justice will come, son." But I knew the final trial would be fierce. Dad and Joel would counterattack. Memories of our shattered family pained me, but now that she was awake, everything had changed. This was the true beginning of justice. The very next day, Mark submitted Mom's affidavit to the court, requesting a recess to add the live witness. The judge agreed to the postponement. The courtroom buzzed as the news was read aloud. "Mrs. Elaine Warren, the victim, has awakened and provided new testimony." The news spread like wildfire, shocking public opinion across all of Astoria and rippling into the state of Oregon. The waiting days until the trial resumed stretched on endlessly, even though it was only about 2 months. I split my time between the hospital and Mark's office, preparing for the decisive day. Mom gradually grew stronger. She could sit up, eat thin porridge, and recount old stories in a weak but warm voice. "Son, I remember the day you took your first photo, the Astoria Harbor at sunset. I was so proud," she said, stroking my hair like she did in my childhood. I smiled, but my heart was heavy. She'd lost so much weight, her skin wrinkled, her eyes shadowed from days in a coma. Public sentiment continued to boil. Oregon newspapers ran series, "The Warren Case, From Dark Conspiracy to Miracle Awakening." Reporters interviewed neighbors and old customers from Warren's attic. Elaine was a kind soul, passionate about art. Can't believe her ex-husband and son would do this. Social media exploded. Hashtag Justice for Elaine trended, people sharing personal stories of broken families. Some supported my father. "Richard Warren's a successful businessman, must be a misunderstanding." but the majority were outraged. Poisoning your own mother for money? Disgusting. I read it all, my heart aching. My family had become a public spectacle. Joel texted, "You and Mom stop this." She's confused. I deleted it, no reply. Dad called once, voice icy. "Good that your mom's awake. But don't let her talk nonsense." I hung up, trembling with rage. They were scared. Mom's words would turn the tide. The final trial resumed after nearly 2 months on a crisp morning in Astoria. The courthouse was packed, spectator seats full, media from across Oregon crowding in, live TV cameras rolling. The atmosphere was tense as a taut string about to snap, the air thick with the scent of aged wood and sweat. The judge banged her gavel. Proceedings resume. The plaintiff adds a witness, Mrs. Elaine Warren. The courtroom murmured, flashes popping. I sat at the plaintiff's table, hands shaking. Mark patted my shoulder. "Stay calm. This is when we win." At the defense table, Dad and Joel sat rigidly in crisp black suits, but I saw Dad's eyes dart away, Joel clenching his fists. Their lawyer, the tall man from Portland, whispered urgently, face ashen. And then Mom appeared. She was wheeled into the courtroom, frail after her ordeal, her silver hair tied back neatly, face pale but remarkably composed. She wore a simple dress, clutching a handkerchief, eyes fixed straight ahead. The room fell silent. Everyone held their breath at the sight of her, the survivor emerging from the shadows. I stood, rushing to hug her gently. "Mom, I'm here." She smiled faintly. "I'm okay, son. I'll tell everything." She was wheeled to the witness stand and sworn in. "I will tell the truth, the whole truth." Mark questioned first, voice gentle. "Mrs. Elaine, can you detail what happened leading up to your illness?" She took a deep breath, voice weak but clear. "A few months ago, my ex-husband Richard and son Joel started bringing new medications to the shop. They said better meds prescribed by a Portland doctor. I took them, but the pills were a strange color. After I got severe dizziness, nausea. I asked and they brushed it off. Just normal side effects." The courtroom went still, only the frantic scribble of notes breaking the hush. She continued. "The day before I passed out, Joel came with a thick stack of papers. He said, 'Dad needs you to sign some insurance forms, just precautions.' I read them. It was an addendum to the old policy from 3 years ago. I refused. 'I'm not signing.' Joel got angry, shoved me hard against the wooden cabinet. I hit my back, head spinning, then blacked out." She paused, tears streaming down. The room froze as she said, "I couldn't believe my own son would do that." Her voice broke. The courtroom was pin-drop silent, a few spectators dabbing their eyes. I sat there, heartbreaking. Mom spoke without bitterness, only sorrow. Dad bowed his head. Joel went pale. Their lawyer whispered frantically. Mark rose, presenting the full evidence aligned with Mom's testimony. He displayed large slides. Mrs. Elaine's account matches the medication forensics, the unknown compound in the swapped label bottles brought by Joel. Then the statement from the intruder, Victor Hale. "A middle-aged man with silver hair hired me. Matches Mr. Richards' description." Mark added, "Combined with police toxicology results, the cardiac stimulant mix, and financial records from Warren Group. $2 million in debt, hidden transfers matching Hale's payment." He listed them. Photos of the medicine cabinet, hidden camera footage, dried blood in the shop, the insurance policy. Every piece now fits perfectly. A gradual poisoning plot, coerced insurance signing, then hiring someone to finish it in the hospital. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge nodded. The defense tried to counter, "Mrs. Elaine is confused post-coma." No direct evidence. But it fell flat. Public opinion had shifted. Dad and Joel sat stone-faced, ashen. The trial stretched into the afternoon, but the verdict came faster than I expected. The judge banged her gavel, voice stern. "Upon review, the court rules Richard Warren is sentenced to 40 years imprisonment for conspiracy to murder. His ex-wife, organized attempted murder, and life insurance fraud." The room exploded. Dad hung his head as he was led away. Joel Warren receives 18 years for aiding and abetting assault and obstruction of justice. Joel sobbed, looking to me for mercy, but I turned away. All assets and shares in Warren Group were seized entirely, used to compensate Mom and cover legal fees. About $3 million, enough for her to live comfortably. The courtroom applauded, reporters rushed out. Warren case ends. Justice for the victim. I hugged Mom, tears falling. It's over, Mom, she whispered. Thank you, son. After the trial, life changed completely. I sold my Astoria apartment, the place full of painful memories, for a fair price. Mom and I left the city, moving to Newport, a quieter coastal town with gentle waves and fresh air. We rented a small house near the beach where the wind carried scents of salt and freedom. Mom regained her strength. She could walk, eat better, her smile returning. We opened a little antique shop called Elaine's Attic, a fresh start. It wasn't big, just a few old wooden shelves stocked with grandfather clocks, faded porcelain vases, yellowed leather books, the things she loved. She'd sit behind the counter arranging items, sharing stories with customers. This one's from the 19th century, full of old secrets. Tourists stopped by and she'd beam, "A new life, son." Each morning I'd wake early, camera in hand, shooting the Newport harbor. White-capped waves, fishing boats at anchor, fog lifting in the sun. Those photos were therapy, blurring the painful memories. Back home, Mom would rearrange old frames in the shop, shots I'd taken of her in her youth, our family, long ago. She'd caress them. "The past is gone, son. Now it's the future." I'd nod, warmth filling my heart. In a new photo album, I inscribed a single line. Not all justice comes from the courtroom. Some things only a survivor's heart can understand. That summed it up. The court gave the verdict, but healing came from love, from Mom and me together. Our days in Newport flowed peacefully. Mom often sat by the window, gazing at the sea. "I was so afraid of losing everything, but you saved me." I'd hug her. "You saved me too, Mom." We avoided news of Dad and Joel. They were in prison, the auction house dissolved. Public buzz faded, but the scars lingered. I photographed more, sold prints online, lived freely. Mom started small art classes, sharing her passion. Our new life wasn't wealthy, but it was meaningful. Each sunset we'd walk the beach, wind tousling our hair. "Thank you for life, son," she'd say. I'd smile. "Thank you, Mom." And that was enough. Life in Newport is like a new painting, where the colors are brighter but still streaked with faint shadows from the past. Each morning as the sun rises through the coastal fog, I step out of the small wooden house we've rented, my camera slung over my shoulder, and walk along the damp sand. The waves lap gently, not fierce like in Astoria, but soothing like the sea's lullaby. Fishing boats bob at anchor and fishermen greet me with smiles. "Get some good shots, young man." And I snap away, capturing the moment. Those photos aren't just images, they're my way of confronting the pain. Each click is a reminder. Life goes on, even if the darkness pursues. Back home, the scent of aged wood and lavender tea from Elaine's attic welcomes me. Mom sits behind the counter, arranging old photo frames, shots of her young and smiling by the Columbia River. Family pictures from long ago with Dad and Joel as boys. She caresses them gently without resentment, just a wistful sadness. "The past is gone, son. Don't let it hold you back." I nod, but deep down there are still undercurrents. Nights I wake from nightmares about the trial, Mom's testimony, Dad's eyes as he was led away. Now that everything has settled, I often sit alone by the seaside at dusk, reflecting on the journey we've been through. It's a story not just of conspiracy and justice, but of the harsh lessons life has taught me. From that midnight phone call, the ring shattering the night, pulling me into a whirlwind of suspicion and fear, to the final trial where Mom sat on the witness stand, her voice frail but resolute as she recounted the truth. Trust your intuition, especially when it involves family. Don't dismiss strange signs just because you're afraid to face them. If I'd been even a little slower, Mom might not be here. My advice: if something feels off in your family, sudden over-attention, odd changes, dig deeper right away. Don't wait until it's too late like I almost did. That journey also taught me about the power of love and perseverance. When Mom lay in the ICU, machine sustaining her fragile life, I'd sit by her for hours, telling old stories for her to hear, even in her silence. In those moments, I thought of the past, Mom raising us alone after Dad left, running Warren's attic with a gentle smile despite the exhaustion. She taught me to love art, to cherish antiques that carried old tales. Now in Newport with our Elaine's attic, she's the same, sitting and arranging items, sharing with customers about a grandfather clock. It's from the 19th century, witnessed so many lives. The lesson: family love is the greatest strength. It drove me to investigate on my own, checking the medicine cabinet, finding the insurance policy, installing the hidden camera. Not out of hatred, but love for Mom. My advice: when facing a plot from your own flesh and blood, don't let anger cloud you. Act from love. Seek support like I had with Emma and Mark. Don't go it alone. Isolation can drown you in doubt. But the deepest lesson is about justice and healing. The courtroom delivered the verdict. Dad sentenced to 40 years, Joel to 18, assets seized. But that justice didn't erase the pain. I remember the sentencing day, the courtroom applauding, but I sat there feeling hollow. Dad bowed his head as he was led away, Joel sobbing and looking to me for mercy. They were once family, now prisoners. Legal justice is necessary, but true healing comes from the heart. Like the note in the album, not all justice comes from the courtroom. Some things only a survivor's heart can understand. In Newport, Mom and I heal through small things. Beach walks each evening, her sharing old stories without bitterness, me photographing to preserve the present. The message: legal justice is just the surface. Beneath it is forgiveness and letting go. I haven't fully forgiven Dad and Joel. The hurt was too deep. But I've released the hatred to live. My advice: after tragedy, don't let resentment consume you. Find ways to heal through art, nature, loved ones. If you're a victim, remember, surviving is the first victory, living well is the greatest justice. I often reflect on my own mistakes. I was too busy with photography to notice Mom's health early, the dizzy spells, the fatigue she mentioned. The lesson: don't overlook signs from loved ones. Life gets hectic, but family comes first. My advice: call often, visit regularly. If something seems off, like sudden excessive concern from someone, probe deeper. For me, Dad and Joel's over-attention, constantly swapping meds, that was a red flag, but I dismissed it. Now I advise: be suspicious when needed, but from a place of love, not fear. Another lesson is the power of evidence and persistence. From my solo investigation, finding bloodstains in the shop, tracing the car plate from hospital cameras, to filing the civil suit when police dragged their feet. Without it, Mom might not have been saved. The message: don't wait for others, take action. My advice: gather evidence meticulously, find a good lawyer like Mark, and persist. The trial dragged on, public opinion flipped, but don't quit. Like Mom waking, the final piece arrived just in time. In Newport, life teaches me about new beginnings. The little shop, visitors stopping by, Mom beaming. I photograph, sell prints online, live freely. The lesson: the past doesn't define you. My advice: after loss, dare to change. Leave painful places, seek new ones. For us, Newport is peace. In the end, my message: life is full of surprises, from darkness to light. The lessons are to trust, act, and heal. My advice: live with your heart, for only it understands everything.